Hello everyone, it's Pithy here, and I'm back with another episode of Pithy's Budget Brews, and today we'll be talking about Sylvia and Khorvath. Sylvia mainly focuses on dragons and giving them double strike, and Khorvath focuses on knights, giving them flying and haste. So basically this deck is to try and mix the two tribes together in the most efficient way possible, while keeping like the aggro potentials of the Knight tribe, but having the Dragon tribe added in there for like more of like late game potential. So it makes a more resilient Boros type deck. So that way you're not like just scooping to a board wipe after your, like turn 5. You just lose and you're just kind of like playing the rest of the game, top decking useless cards. So what we're starting off here is the dragons, and the dragons are really probably the strongest part of the deck. And we start off with Scalelord Reckoner, 5 mana, 4/4 flying. Whenever a dragon you control becomes target of a spell or ability, an opponent controls, destroy a target non-land permanent that player controls. So dragons are really scary, and a lot of the times people are going to want to kill your dragons. And especially with double strike, they are one of the most scariest things ever, because dragons are huge and they deal massive amounts of damage with double strike. So this gives us protection. So let's say if they want to kill something, well, we're gonna have to kill something of theirs in response to that. We gotta retaliate. Because we really don't have much removal to deal with other stuff, and this kind of gives us protection against spot removal. Crucible of Fire, it's just dragon creatures you control get +2/+3. This is just really good with Sylvia. You give her, she gives all dragons double strike, and this is an extra 6 damage that she comes across for each dragon, which is pretty disgusting. It's also more like a finisher type card too. You can play this just to finish the game off if you really want to, but it's definitely something that I think is worth putting in, because you do play cheaper, efficient dragons in this deck than you would in typical dragon decks. Utvar Hellkite is one of the big, monstrous dragons in the deck, a whopping 8 mana. For a 6/6 flying, whenever a dragon you control attacks, create a 6/6 creature token with flying. So the key part with this is just dragons attacking, and it's just get a whole bunch of creatures, and they all have double strike, and it's pretty disgusting. Scourge of Valkus, 5 mana, 4/4 flying. Whenever the dragon enters the battlefield, do X damage to target creature, or any target, actually, I believe is what it is now. Where X is the number of dragons you control, and it can pump itself, Fire Breathe. It's mainly in there for being a good dragon, because typically what you want to do is you want to have a lot of dragons to be able to do this, and I'm not sure if you'll be able to get enough dragons to really get a lot of damage off of this in one go. Now, yes, if you do have Utvar Hellkite or Lathliz, which we're getting ready to talk about, in play, then of course you're going to have large amounts of dragons then, but it's really just there for being a cheap dragon, and it can also Fire Breathe, which is very relevant with double strike. But having that extra damage attached to it is very good. Lathliz, Dragon Queen, 6 mana, 6/6 fly. Whenever the non-token dragon enters the battlefield under your control, it can create a 5/5 red dragon creature token. This is basically just the opposite of Utvar Hellkite. It's whenever a non-token dragon enters the battlefield, so about like half of our creatures, or more than half of our creatures, are dragons, and they make other dragons. And this can also pump dragons as well, give each dragon fire breathing for just 2 more mana, which is very powerful, and something that's definitely very strong. And I actually really like this card. I think it's probably better in some cases than Utvar Hellkite in this deck, because Utvar Hellkite is a lot of mana, whereas Lathliz is 2 mana less, and it makes a 5/5 dragon, and it's a 6/6, and it pumps your other dragons. So overall, I think it's more powerful than Utvar Hellkite in the earlier stages of the game, but in the later stages of the game, Utvar Hellkite is just better, because he keeps doubling up the dragons that you make. And then you got Thunderbreak Regent, which is basically just another protection card Not really much protection though, but 5 mana 4/4 flyer. Whenever dragon you control becomes target of a spell or ability opponent controls, it deals 3 damage to that player. So it's basically just protects certain like dragons. It's like basically makes them like, do I really want to take the 3 damage? Because this is a Boros deck. This is a very aggressive deck, and you can pump out lots of damage really quick. So that 3 damage might actually be very important, and they still might die even if they kill this one dragon or creature that you have. And it's just pretty brutal to think about how that would happen. It's like, oh, well, I'll kill your creature, but then I'm taking 3, and then you still have lethal on me anyways, because I took that 3 damage. So it kind of leaves that. Also, it's a 4 mana 4/4, which is great, and it's one of the more efficient dragons in the deck without a downside. Now we have the knight strategies, and there's only a little bit of knights that actually care about like that are actually good, that actually care about other stuff. So knights are really small, so you really want your pump effects for them. So you got Sylvia and Commander, 3 mana 2/2, has flanking, might be relevant, might not be relevant, but if you pay 3, 1 white, target knight gets +1/+1 until end of turn. So basically, it's just a way to make them like trade with other creatures, or if they have a first strike knight, it can kill a creature straight up if you pump it enough, which is something that's very good. And also this is just not bad because it's just a target knight, so it can even target itself to do that. So you can kill a 4/4 with it because it has flanking if it is blocked. So it's something that's definitely very interesting. I don't think it's a really great card, and if you want to, like, I think any knight is probably better than this, but we're trying to play like the best knights that we can for cheap mana costs and on the budget, of course. But like most knights aren't really that expensive, and you can probably find a 3 mana one that's better than this. Kinsbale Cavalier, 4 mana 2/2, knights you control have double strike. So our dragons have double strike because of Sylvia. Why not our knights have double strike? It seems like a really good idea. And this is just makes them a lot more powerful. If they have first strike, they're good, but if they have double strike, they're better because they can trade with bigger creatures or kill creatures that are much larger than them, and makes blocking for your opponents a lot harder because they don't want to really trade off some other good creatures for your 2/2 or 3/3 knight, which is kind of embarrassing to think that a knight could just take down whatever that they have. And it's just good because there are other cards in the deck, or there's at least one other card in the deck that cares about first strike, which I think is Kawende, I believe, is in this deck. And not all of these knights, as you can tell from Kinsbale Cavalier and Sylvia and Commander, have first strike. And if our dragons have first strike, they're already getting double strike from Sylvia anyways, so like it doesn't really matter. So like we only have a few first strike knights in the deck. We have probably the best knight in the deck, which is Knight Exemplar, 3 mana 2/2, first strike. Other knight creatures you control gain +1/+1 and are indestructible. So this is just a good way to protect all of your knights and to protect Sylvia, which is one of the more important cards in the deck, is Sylvia. And it's something that is worthwhile noting is that the knights are smaller, so we really do need these lord effects. And a lot of times you don't want to play, like if you're mixing the 2 tribes, you don't want to play too many of these, so I believe we're only playing a few. For the knights, I believe it's just the 2, which is Knight Exemplar and Valiant Knight. You got also Valiant Knight, so we're in it now. Valiant Knight, 4 mana, 3/4. Other knights you control get +1/+1. You can pay 5, knights you control gain double strike. So it's another way to gain double strike for your knights, which is something that is very, very good. And it's just, I think, something that makes them a lot stronger, and something that's definitely very, is worth putting into your deck. Because they are just really small, you need to kind of put out as much damage as you can with these guys. Plus, the knights are your early game, so trying to really pump out the damage really quick is something that's very good. And here's our cheap dragons in the deck. Oops. Our cheap dragons in the deck. We have Skyship Stalker, which is 4 mana 3/3 flying, and it can gain fire breathing, first strike, or haste. If you pay 1 red for each of those, you can get one of those abilities, and it's here for a 4 mana dragon, is really what it's in here for. Because first strike really doesn't matter if you have Sylvia, because it'll already have double strike, and it just doesn't do anything. Haste is something that's relevant as well if you want to gain haste. It could be better in the later game. And fire breathing is really the reason it's in here as well, because it's just really good with double strike. Storm Breath Dragon, you know, super powerful card, 5 mana 4/4 flying haste, pro white. Has monstrous 3. I don't know if you'd be monstering it very often, but it's still worth noting. When it becomes monstrous, it deals damage equal, or to each opponent equal to the number of cards in that player's hand. So it can like push through that last bit of damage if you really need to, because by the time you have 7 mana, you probably got people who are really low, and it's something that's definitely a worthwhile card, because like I said, we are playing cheap, efficient dragons. Most of them are hasty in the lower mana costs, like 5 to 4. Most of them are hasty. So, we also got Arcwing Dragon, which is probably something that people probably would never see in other decks. This is a 4 mana 4/4 flying haste. At the beginning of your end step, return Arcwing Dragon to its owner's hand. So basically what this is a ball lightning in this deck. You play this on curve with Sylvia, and you just hit someone for 8 straight up every single time you cast this card. It goes in and deals 8 damage. And something that's good about this is if you do have Arcwing Dragon, you can just play this every turn. It is really bad because you don't really make progress on the board, but it keeps cards in your hand for the inevitable board wipes that's going to be coming down. So that way you can kind of keep your better stuff for later, after a board wipe happens. And like you still get to keep Arcwing anyways, for a board wipe. But that's one of the reasons he's in there, is for haste, and it returns back. So it kind of keeps you from investing too much on the board really quick. Then we got Territorial Hellkite, 4 mana 6/5 flying haste. At the beginning of your combat on your turn, choose an opponent at random, and it doesn't that it didn't attack her last combat, and it attacks that player this combat if able. If you can't choose an opponent this way, tap it. So in the early game, this is a 12 damage card with Sylvia, and that is insane. That is taking over 1/4 of someone's health in Commander. That is ridiculous on turn 4. In the late game, it is completely pretty much useless in that sense, because you don't even really want this card, because it's basically like not good. Because you just go in once every other turn, essentially, if you only have one opponent left. So it's not really that good in that sense, but for early damage, it is very, very good. And then we have Thundermaw, Hellkite, and it's 5 mana for 5/5 flying haste. When it enters the battlefield, do 1 damage to each creature with flying your opponent's control, and tap those. Once again, this is good for Sylvia, being 10 mana hit card, and it also taps flying creatures that they have. So essentially, it can be like a way to just prevent them from being able to block you at all, and you just straight up kill someone with this. And it's just a really good card for like getting around planeswalkers as well, because you can tap their flying blockers if they have any, and then just snipe their planeswalkers really quick if you really wanted to go for that. And it's something that's just super, super good. Then we got Glorybringer, standard all-star, 5 mana 4/4 flying haste. You may exert it as it attacks, and when you do, deal 4 damage to target non-dragon creature and opponent controls. So what this would mainly be doing is sniping flying creatures, so that way you can get in damage. or you kill the most threatening creatures that they have that you can actually kill with Glorybringer. It is a downside because it is only like 4 damage, so it doesn't really kill much, but it can shoot something for 4, and if they wanted to block something that they really can't. But it's also just a good hasty dragon, which is what this basically this category is just haste dragons. So Glorybringer is just a pretty just auto include card, plus it gives you purpose for your Glorybringers after they rotate. Alright, now we have card draw. We have our card draw here, and this is something that's very important for Boros, to have our card advantage card draw cards. So, sticking with the dragon theme, we got Dragon Mage, 7 mana, 5/5, flying. Whenever it deals count damage to a player, each player discards his or her hand, then draw 7 cards. Now, to note with this card, it will gain double strike, so you will wheel twice if you have Sylvia in play. So, I would recommend not having Sylvia in play when you hit with Dragon Mage, because otherwise you're losing 7 cards for no reason. And it's not really good to do that, because those first 7 could be really good, and your second 7 be really bad. Or it could be vice versa and actually be good, but I would just kind of avoid Dragon Mage and Sylvia together on the battlefield. Got Runehorn Hellkite here, 7 mana, 5/5, flying, and you just pay 6 and exile it, and you wheel. Each player discards their hand and draws 7. Now, this card's not really that great in this deck, and it's definitely something you can, if you have a bit more money, you can spend on other card draw stuff. And this is just a dragon, which is one of the reasons I put it in, and it's cheap, and it's just, you know, you could play it as just a 5 mana or 6 mana 5/5 or 6 mana 10/5 with Sylvia. You have double strike on it, but it's not a bad card. It's just there's other better options for card draw that you could put in, but I put it in because I like it as this, considering that there's other cards that kind of work with like discarding, like I have Voracious Dragon, which is 4 mana 4 mana 5/4/4, not 7/7. Flying at the beginning of your draw step, draw an additional card. And at the beginning of your end step, discard your hand. So the downside of this card is discarding your hand. The upside is you do get to draw an additional card. So you get to draw 2 cards a turn, and since we are more aggressive, we don't have too many high converted mana cost cards in our deck, we'll probably most likely be able to play both cards that turn, that we draw the 2, hopefully. We might run in a situation where we get 2 big dragons, and we get to choose which one we cast. But it's still good to have this, and it is a cheap, efficient dragon, which most of the time is just really hard to find good dragons. Also, we have Reforge the Soul, 5 mana. You get to wheel, so each player discards his or her hand and draws 7. It has a Miracle of 2. Which you can use to, whenever you draw it, if it's the first card you draw this turn, you can pay its miracle cost, which is 2. So you just, basically 2 mana you can wheel, or 5 mana you can wheel. And this is basically the only card draw options you really get in red, is wheeling or discarding cards and drawing cards, or drawing cards and discarding, stuff like that. And then we have the one that doesn't make us discard our hand. It's like the only one, I think, from this set that does that. This set of 5 cards, which is Skyline Despot, 7 mana, 5/5. When it enters this battlefield, you become the Monarch. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you're the Monarch, put a 5/5 red dragon creature token on the battlefield. So the Monarch is at each end, or at your end step, you draw a card. And so we are the aggro deck, and a lot of the times we really need card draw. This gives us card draw and creatures, so it's just the best of both worlds. If we can say the Monarch until our turn, we get a 5/5, so we get an additional blocker or an attacker, and it's something that's just super good in this deck. It's just having that extra 5/5, just the extra card draw every single turn really does help. Now we have basically the good cards with our commanders. So Sylvia is like super good with Sunscorp Region. 5 mana, 4/3, flying. Whenever an opponent casts a spell, put a +1/+1 counter on Sunscorched Region, and you gain 1 life. You have 3 opponents in the game, in a game of Commander, and basically this is just get huge really quick. With Sylvia, it is one-shot someone. And it's just super ridiculous that this card can be so powerful in a Commander game. And it's definitely something that's a must-need remove threat, especially later in the game. Same goes for Torian Mauler, which is 3 mana 2/2 Changeling, so it has every creature type, so it benefits from Khorvath as well, which we haven't really talked about, but it's because Khorvath isn't as powerful as Sylvia is in this deck. Whenever an opponent casts a spell, you may put a +1/+1 counter on Torian Mauler. It's the same thing as Sunscorp Region, except it's the 3 mana 2/2 version of it without flying. But with Sylvia and Khorvath, it has flying, haste, and double strike. So haste I don't think is going to be that relevant because it's going to be in the game earlier. It's going to benefit from both tribal synergies, so it's going to benefit from entering the battlefield and making a dragon, or attacking and making a dragon, or just getting the dragon buff. Also getting indestructible or double strike without Sylvia in play. So it really benefits from tribal synergies and is very good for that. Next we have Bastion Protector, and this is one of my favorite cards, especially with 2 commanders. You get 3 mana for 3/3 command creatures you control, get +2/+2, and have indestructible. So it protects Sylvia, protects Khorvath, which are, the key cards to the deck. They're like the whole build around of the deck. So it really protects those, and it makes them huge. So they're even more threatening now, because they both have double strike, they both have flying, if they're both in play, and it's just, they both have indestructible, and it's ridiculous. Bloodstorm Steward isn't really that good of a card, but the reason it's in here is because it's a 4 mana 4/4 flying card, so it has evasion on its own, so it's not bad there, and it's very efficient. And command creature control will get +2/+2 and have haste. So Khorvath already gives haste to Sylvia, and Khorvath already has haste. So the haste thing isn't really relevant there, it's the +2/+2. So it just makes them really big. And this reason for both of those cards is the +2/+2, and for Bastion Protector it's indestructible to really protect them. This is our finisher slide, and Adriana, Captain of the Guard, is probably the most powerful knight in the deck. 5 mana, 4/4, has melee. Whenever this creature attacks, it gets +1/+1 for each until in a turn for each opponent you attacked with a creature this combat. So, and it also gives other creatures you control melee. So basically, this is the overrun of the deck. If you could just attack one creature at each of your opponents, and they get +4 or +3/+3, and that is overrun level of power, and for just a 5 mana 4/4 creature, and it is bonkers just how much damage you can put out with her. She can literally just end the game if she can stay on the board. Same goes for Mirror Entity, 3 mana 1/1 changeling, so it's every creature type, and you pay X, creatures you control become XX, and gain all creature types until end of turn. So this is good because we mix the 2 tribes together. So we have our Knight synergies and our Dragon synergies, and they all become, all of our creatures become both of those types. So they gain those synergies, and this is, potentially can be a lot of damage. So the one thing that's a problem with this card is you have to spend a decent amount of mana in order for you to gain power on your dragons. But with your knights, they're really small, so they'll most likely be pretty powerful at becoming 4/4s or 5/5s. But there are dragons that are 6/6s and stuff like that that kind of really aren't that great. Whenever they turn into 3/3s or 4/4s. So there's that. And you got Moonveil Dragon, 6 mana for a 5/5 flying, and gives fire breathing to each of your creatures, or not, doesn't give it, but it fire breathes all your creatures for 1 red mana, and that's another good finisher card. It's especially good with the dragons. Knights, not so much. If they have double strike, they are pretty good, but that's basically what it's there for, and it is just a good card, and it's just really powerful. So you can just dump red mana, a bunch of red mana into this, and you just kill people with it, and it's a very strong card. So that's the deck, and as of now, the deck is about $85 and 30 ticks on Magic Online. The reason it's 30 ticks is because of one of the lands, which is Path of Ancestry, which is like 10 tickets. So you can not have that in. It's like 20-ish, around 20-ish tickets. And I will be including the non-budget version of this deck in the description, so you kind of get to see the increase in power level of other dragons in the deck. And this is a really fun deck, and I have a personal deck. It's pretty close to this one. It doesn't have a few of the cards, but I've been really having a lot of fun with it, and it is very, very strong. It can kill pretty fast, and I think it's definitely something that is worth considering, even though it is 2 tribes. 2 tribes isn't really that big of a deal in Commander because you have 100 cards to play with, or not really 100 cards, but like 70, no, not 70, but like 62-ish cards. So, because like you want your lands to be in your deck, 38 lands at the most, or not at the most, but like in the medium, it's like 38 is like the best. But this is one of my favorite decks that I've been fooling around with, and I really like it, and I think that it is a pretty good deck, and I think that you guys should try it out. Of course, there are a few other like expensive things in here. There's a let's see. Well, I believe like a lot of the lands, I think Path of Ancestry is actually kind of expensive, and Reforged is still expensive, or decent priced anyways. But yeah, I hope you liked the video, and I'll see you next time.